Hello from Seoul. There's nothing inherently wrong with just eating instant ramen. But if you wanna try the real taste of Korean spicy noodle soup, you gotta try this. This is one of the most popular Korean dishes, and in my opinion, one of the greatest noodle soups of all time.
Like many others, I also really enjoy this instant ramen, and I think this is one of the greatest noodle soups in Korea. But I dare say, this is not the best. If I have to pick only one noodle soup to recommend for you guys to try in Korea, I would definitely pick this Jjamppong. Normally, Jjamppong is made with seafood, so some of you might not like it, even though it doesn't taste fishy at all. But since today's version is gonna be made with beef brisket, I think nobody can say no to this. Super cool, right? For this, you will need some beef, onion, napa cabbage, baby bok choy, green onions, garlic, and noodles. What? Too many ingredients? No way! I've actually simplified them down. But you still think there are too many ingredients? Then you can skip the napa cabbage and baby bok choy. But since they add a nice sweetness and refreshing flavor to the broth, I highly recommend using them. Alright, let's talk about our beef first. For today's recipe, I'm gonna be using this Chadol thinly sliced beef brisket. With this bad boy, you can cut down your prep time. Also, since it's got nice layers of fat, it has so much flavor to the broth. But if it's difficult to get this, you can use any meat that you'd use for hot pot from Asian grocery stores. What? Still can't get that either? Then get yourself some steak and just thinly slice it. But I highly recommend using a nice fatty cut. Don't worry about it, everything will be fantastic. Alright, let's prep the vegetables. First, let's slice one onion. Not too thin, not too thick. Next, take 2 cabbage leaves and cut them into nice bite-sized pieces. If it's difficult to get this napa cabbage, you can use just regular cabbage or add a little bit more baby bok choy. No problem at all. This time, take 1 or 2 baby bok choy, trim off the end, and just cut it into quarters. If your baby bok choy is way bigger than mine, you're welcome to cut it more. Now, take 2 green onions and cut them into long strips. And then thinly slice some white parts just like we always do. We're gonna make a beautiful aromatic oil with these bad boys. And lastly, smash 4 cloves of garlic and finely chop them. That's it. Nothing complicated, right? Whenever I make Korean Chinese dishes, I always say this, but I'm gonna repeat it. If you make this kind of dish, it's always better to take out and measure all the seasonings before you start cooking. Because this way, you can finish cooking gracefully. And you won't have to feel discouraged looking at one seasoning still waiting for you after you finish cooking. So let's bring some small bowls here and prepare our seasonings. Alright, to each bowl, add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 2.5 tablespoons of Korean chili pepper flakes, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder, and half a teaspoon of white pepper or black pepper. We have all the instructions and a list of ingredients on our blog, aaronandclaire.com, so please visit here if you need a written recipe. For information, for a spicy soup like this, it's better to use this kind of fine gochugaru. Of course, you could just use regular Korean chili pepper flakes, but this will give you a more vibrant red color. What? You don't want to buy this, but you don't want to compromise either? Don't worry about it. Your don't worry about it guy always has a solution. You can just blend it up. That's it. What? You wanna know this kind of tip more and more? I'm so glad you brought that up, because everything you need is in this one book. Trust me, with this one book, you can cook more than 100 Korean dishes like a pro, so don't forget to check it out. The link is in the description. Finally, it's cooking time. Get yourself a wok or pot. Add 2 tablespoons of oil and heat it over medium-high heat. Once it's heated, add 250 grams of beef brisket and cook for about 2 minutes. Once you've got some fat from the beef, strain the white parts of the green onions, garlic, and give them a good stir and infuse our oil. And if you want to add an extra spicy kick, add 1 or 2 dried chilies here. After about 1 minute, add soy sauce and stir it around for about 30 seconds. This is not only gonna season your beef, but it's also gonna add a nice smoky umami flavor. Trust me, this little detail will make a huge difference in taste. Now stir in your onions, cabbage, baby bok choy, and give it a few stirs. And then to that, add the Korean chili pepper flakes, oyster sauce, chicken bouillon powder, and stir fry them all together for about 2 minutes. During this step, the beautiful chili oil will be made, and that's gonna add a nice fragrant spicy kick to your jjamppong. Alright, once you can see some beautiful chili oil here and there, increase the heat to high, add 2 cups of water, and bring it to a boil. Today, we're gonna be adding 4.5 cups of water in total, but we're not gonna add all at once, because that way, we can get a deeper taste more quickly and effectively. Compared to restaurants, our stuff is much weaker. If you add the water all at once, it takes a long time to extract all the flavors from the ingredients. And while that's going, the vegetables in the soup will lose their beautiful texture. So please follow my lead. You won't regret it. Once it starts to boil, let it simmer for about 1 minute, and then add the rest of the water and bring it to a boil. Once it comes up to boil again, add the green onions, white pepper, and continue to boil for about 3 minutes. That's it! Super simple, right? While that's going, let's prep our noodles. Add your noodles in boiling water and cook according to the package instructions. Today, I'm using wheat noodles called Jjajangmyeon or Jjajangmyeon noodles, but you can use almost any Asian wheat noodles here. No problem at all. Or you can even serve it with some rice. So feel free to experiment with your favorite. Everything will be fantastic. When the noodles are cooked, give them a quick rinse. This is gonna make the noodles more chewy. But since we can serve them cold, let's put the noodles back into the cooking water and then shake off the excess water and divide them into serving bowls. Alright, let's get back to our soup. Before pouring it over the noodles, make sure to give it a quick taste and add some salt to taste. And this is totally optional, but if you wanna get that restaurant taste, bring that bad boy over here. MSG. And just add a pinch. Alright, the soup is done. Let's ladle this beautiful soup over the noodles. And then, just for a prettier presentation, add some shredded green onions like this. Trust me, this way, you'll feel like you're eating at a restaurant. See? It looks fantastic, right? You wanna know how it tastes? Alright, let's go to our taste tester.
Claire?
차돌 짬뽕이구만. 딱 봐도 식당에서 주는 것보다 고기를 잔뜩 넣어줬구만. It's gonna be super delicious. Let's give it a try. But before we start, let me tell you one pro tip. If you are wearing expensive t-shirt or something, then put on your apron. Then you don't have to worry about this soup splashing all over. You're welcome. Look at the soup. Love this spiral red color. 맛있겠다. 숲부터 먹어야겠다 이거는 무조건. Cheers. 확실히 평상시에 우리가 먹던 차돌짬뽕보다 훨씬 더 비피해. 소고기 향이 되게 많이 나면서 깊은 맛이 난다. 오, 그러면서 그 끝에 아주 칼칼함이 제대로 살아있네. 아, 너무 기대된다. 이거 면이랑 슈룩 먹으면 엄청 맛있을 것 같아. 와, look at this. It looks crazy, right? 고기 착 올려가지고 착 먹겠어. Cheers. 다시 한번 말하지만 소고기를 잔뜩 넣어줘서 그런가 왜 우리나라 육개장 있지? 그런 육개장을 먹는 그런 느낌도 나고 아니면 그 대만의 우유면 먹는 느낌 있지? 그 맛이 제대로 나네? 맛있다. 중간중간에 들어있는 이 야채들도 너무 마음에 드는 것 같아. 뭔가 되게 자연스러운 단맛을 추가해줘. 그래서 너무 그냥 무조건 맵기만 한 그런 게 아니라 매우면서도 부드럽게 만들어주는 그 뭔가의 단맛이 있어. 맛있다. 아니야, 나한테 매워. It is so addictive. That refreshing taste at the end, super addicting. You gotta try this. So good.
There are so many stir-fried dishes all around the world, but I'm gonna take one of your favorite and combine it with some noodles. Yes, this recipe is gonna be legendary.
Today, we're gonna be making beef noodle stir fry, but it's not just any stir fry noodle dish. We're gonna combine it with everybody's favorite, Mongolian beef. Super tender beef, nice and chewy noodles, and a beautiful sauce that's full of umami. Seriously, is there anybody who don't love this dish? I don't think so. For this, you will need some beef, onion, green onions, garlic, ginger, and noodles. They are pretty simple ingredients that you might have in your fridge, right? For information, for noodles, I'm gonna be using udon noodles today. But any kind of noodles works great in this recipe, so just use what you have. Everything will be fantastic. Alright, let's prepare beef first. Chinese takeout restaurants normally use flank steak for their beef stir fry, but that's not an absolute rule or something. So I'm gonna be using chuck flap tail that's been sitting in my fridge. If you use a better cut, obviously they'll be more tender and more juicy. So if you have some beef already in your fridge, instead of going to a supermarket for a specific cut, just use what you have. That's the best. Anyways, cut 300 grams of beef into nice bite-sized pieces, but make sure to cut against the grain and slice it on an angle. If you're using a cheap cut of beef, this is very important because if you don't do it, you'll probably see everybody at the table chewing rubber like a cow. Of course, the marinade that we're gonna make later on is gonna help tenderize our meat. But if you add this little technique when prepping your meat, you can completely prevent that disaster. So please make sure to cut against the grain. Now let's marinate our beef. Put half a tablespoon of soy sauce, half a tablespoon of Shaoxing wine, a quarter teaspoon of white pepper, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of neutral oil, and give it a good massage. What? You still worried that your beef is gonna be too tough? Then add a little bit more baking soda. Trust me, it's gonna break down the meat fibers and make it really tender. Alright, while they're having a great vacation in the fridge, let's prepare vegetables. First, take 1 large onion and cut it into thick slices. When you think of a typical Mongolian beef, you probably think of a dish without this bad boy. But today, we're gonna add a little bit of charred flavor using this onion. Don't worry about it, you're gonna love it more. Next, green onions. Thinly slice some white parts for a beautiful aromatic oil and cut some green parts into long strips. If you want to make them look more fancy, you can cut diagonally. No problem at all. Once that's done, smash 3 cloves of garlic and finely chop them. And then grate a small knob of ginger. We're gonna use about 2 teaspoons. Alright, the veg prep is done. Let's make the sauce. In a small container, add a quarter cup of water, 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon powder, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, half a teaspoon of dark soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine or other cooking wine, some black pepper, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and give it a good mix. That's it! So simple, right? For information, we have all the instructions and a list of ingredients on our blog, aaronandclaire.com. So please visit here if you need a written recipe. Alright, fill your pot with some water and bring it to a boil. Once it starts to boil, add in your noodles and cook according to the package instructions. Since this is a stir-fried noodle dish, I highly recommend cooking your noodles first so that all your ingredients are prepped up and ready to go. What? You're worried about your noodles sticking together? Don't worry about it. You can just drain the noodles and coat them with some oil. If you do it this way, they're not gonna stick together, so it's gonna be a lot easier to cook them in a pan. Alright, get yourself a wok or pan. Add 1 tablespoon of oil and heat it over high heat. Once it gets nice and hot, add the marinated beef, spread it out, and let it sear for about 1 minute or until nicely browned on the bottom. Browning your beef will create a nice crust on the outside and give you a lot more flavor. So make sure your pan is really hot. Otherwise, instead of getting a nice crust on the outside, it's just gonna create steam. Once the beef is nicely browned on the bottom, flip and cook the other side for about a minute or 2. It doesn't have to be cooked through because we're gonna stir fry one more time with our beautiful aromatics. Alright, let's remove it from the wok and set it aside. Now in the same wok, add 1 tablespoon of oil and heat it over high heat. Once it's heated, throw in your onions, spread them out, and let them sit for about 1 to 2 minutes, just like we did with the beef. This is gonna get them nice and charred, and you will eventually get the nice smoky burnt flavor that you're looking for. And if you wanna add a little bit of kick to this, then add 3 or 4 dry chilies or pepperoncino. Since my hungry bird at home loves a spicy kick, I'm gonna go ahead and add some now. But don't worry about it, this is totally optional. Now let's add the white parts of the green onions, garlic, ginger, and saute those for about 1 minute. Make sure you give it a good stir and let all the flavors infuse. It's gonna coat our beef and noodles, and that will make a huge difference in taste. Once your kitchen is filled with the aroma, add in your beef and noodles and stir fry them for about 1 minute. When the beef and noodles look nice and shiny and they are wearing the greatest perfume of all time, pour in the sauce and toast them together for about 2 minutes. That's it! Couldn't be any easier. You can't say it's too complicated, right? When the beef and noodles are perfectly coated with the sauce, turn the heat off. And then add the rest of the green onions, 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, and give it a final mix. To get that iconic look of Mongolian beef, the green onions have to be cooked with the residual heat, like this. If you put them in too early, you're not gonna get a freshness. You're gonna make green onions that look super exhausted, just like me on a Friday night. You don't wanna see that, right? Alright, before they get too mushy, let's put some noodles on a serving plate. And for a prettier presentation, let's put some green onions and chilies on top of the noodles. How does it look? It looks awesome, right? Alright, let's go to our taste tester.
와! 냄새며 비주얼이며 진짜 너무 맛있어 보이는 거 아니야? 우와, 이거 직감적으로 내가 좋아할 수밖에 없는 비주얼이다. 혼자 다 먹으라고 하는 건 아니겠지? 접시도 주세요. 좀 덜어서 먹어봅시다. 우후. 소고기랑 파까지. 파도 많이. I will save my words. Let's try. Cheers! 고기 먼저 먹어야 되는 거야? 누들 먼저 먹어야 되는 거야? 누들을 먹고 바로 고기를 넣겠어. That's my strategy. 와! It's unbelievable! 너무 맛있다. First of all, I absolutely love this Chinese style marinade. Especially the beef is this much big, but it absolutely melts in my mouth. It is super tender, super juicy. It's unbelievable. 너무 맛있어. 거기다 이 우동면은 진짜 설명이 필요 없어. It's very chewy and bouncy, so I feel like I'm eating a very long rice cakes. 근데 이 우동면이 진짜 이 맛있는 소스를 진짜 잔뜩 흡수해가지고 너무 맛있어. 거기다가 그 소스에서 약간 그 샤오싱 와인 향이 살짝, 너무 과하지도 않고 살짝 나는 게 그게 뭔가 되게 고급진 느낌을 주는 것 같아. 와, 진짜 너무 맛있다. 밖에서 몽골리안 비프 사 먹으면 되게 맛있긴 한데 나한테는 살짝 그게 좀 달거든? 그런데 이거는 그 단맛보다는 확실히 조금 더 짭조름한 맛이 더 살아있는 그런 소스인 것 같아서 그게 마음에 드네. 단맛이 전혀 없는 건 아닌데 그 자연스러운 양파에서 나오는 그런 자연스러운 단맛인 것 같아. 너무 맛있어서 몇 입 안 먹고 한 입밖에 안 먹었는데 정신없이 그냥 얘기한 것 같다. 이제는 좀 즐겨봅시다. I think I have to dig in more. Hope you guys try too. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Enjoy!
Today, we're gonna make one of the easiest Korean noodle dishes in history. It comes together in just 10 minutes with a few ingredients. But don't worry about it. I'm not talking about instant ramen. This is my version of traditional Korean soy sauce noodles, and that will become your lifelong favorite.
Today, we're gonna be making Deulgireum Makguksu, one of the easiest Korean noodle dishes of all time. It's a kind of bibimbap mixed noodles with soy sauce. But unlike other Korean mixed noodles, this bad boy is made with a lot of Perilla oil. So it's gonna be super fragrant and absolutely delicious. And since it's quite similar to pasta salad, you will absolutely love it. I think you're gonna keep making this dish during those hot summer days. For this, you will need some noodles, dry seaweed, toasted sesame seeds, and green onions. That's it! So simple, right? But if you wanna make it more visually appealing, bring some microgreens here. Trust me, these bad boys will take you to the next level. What? You can't get these? Then get yourself some lettuce and thinly slice it. No problem at all. Alright, let's talk about the noodles first. Normally, Deulgireum Makguksu is made with buckwheat noodles, aka soba noodles. But if you can get these, then try with your favorite noodles. I often make this dish with spaghetti noodles and I absolutely love it. So just use what you have in your kitchen. Trust me, everything will be fantastic. Next, toasted sesame seeds. Of course, you could just use them as is, but if you grind them up with a mortar and pestle, trust me, you're gonna get a more intense nutty flavor. But since we're gonna grind our dry seaweed as well, let's just use a blender this time. Alright, put 2 sheets of unseasoned dry seaweed, 4 tablespoons of toasted sesame seeds into a blender, and grind them up until they become a fine powder. But make sure to bring the traditional blender, otherwise you might have to wash 2 blenders at the end. But I don't mind because I have a nice human dishwasher, Claire. Now some of you might ask, Aaron, I don't have that unseasoned dry seaweed, but I have seasoned dried seaweed at home. Can I use them? Yes, you can. You can just tear them into little pieces and use them. No problem at all. Lastly, take 2 or 3 green onions and just thinly slice them. You know what? This is the only time we're gonna use our knife today. Super cool, right? But if you wanna make it even simpler, you can totally cut them with scissors. It really sounds like the recipe that will change your life, doesn't it? Alright, let's move on to the sauce. In a small container, add 3.5 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 4 tablespoons of Perilla oil, and give it a good mix. We have all the instructions and a list of ingredients on our blog, aaronandclaire.com, so please visit here if you need a written recipe. For information, Perilla oil is made from Perilla seeds, and it has a unique nutty flavor and aroma. Not only that, it's got a lot of omega-3, so it's really healthy. What? There's no way to get this oil? Don't worry about it. You can substitute with sesame oil. It's still gonna be nutty and fragrant. I'm sure you'll be happy with that. And here's one more tip. Although I use white vinegar today, balsamic vinegar also works great for this dish. That's the reason why I said it's very similar to pasta salad. So if you have balsamic vinegar at home, try with that. That'll be fantastic too. Alright, everything is all set. Let's cook our noodles. Fill your pot with enough water and bring it to a boil. Once it starts boiling, add in your noodles and cook according to the package instructions. I'm gonna be using 200 grams of dried buckwheat noodles for 2 servings. And while you're doing it, if the water rises up and you feel like there's about to be a massive flood of boiling water, don't panic and just add half a cup of water and repeat this process until noodles are cooked through. With this technique, your kitchen will be clean and safe. What? You wanna know this kind of tip more and more? I'm so glad you brought that up because everything you need is in this one book. Trust me, with this one book, you can cook more than 100 Korean dishes like a pro. So don't forget to check it out. The link is in the description. When the noodles are cooked, drain and give them a good rinse on the cold water. This is gonna help remove some of the starch and make the noodles more chewy and bouncy. Once you've done that, squeeze out the noodles as fast as you can. It's very important because any extra water stuck to the noodles can dilute our sauce. So even if you squeeze out the water, I highly recommend you let them drain for about a minute or two. Alright, let's transfer the noodles to a mixing bowl and add our beautiful sauce over the noodles. Now all you have to do is just toss them together. That's it! Super simple, right? Depending on your preference, you could actually serve the sauce on the side so that everyone can add it to their liking. But since I think this gives it a more authentic vibe, I'm gonna do this way. Once the noodles are nicely coated, grab a noodle and give it a quick taste. And add some more soy sauce if it's needed. Alright, let's plate this up. Place some noodles in a serving bowl and top it off with some seaweed mixture and microgreens. Last but not least, let's sprinkle with our love, green onions. That's it! Couldn't be any easier, right? But if I just serve it like this, my hungry bird at home would be so sad because there's no protein in it. So I'm gonna serve it with some egg on top. How does it look? It looks absolutely amazing, right? Alright, let's go to our taste tester.
Claire,
어머나, 너무 예쁘네. 뭔가 위에 뿌려져 있는 쪽파라든지 새싹이라든지 계란 노른자 때문인지 전체적인 느낌이 뭔가 싱그러운 봄의 느낌이 나. Let's give it a try. 아, 이거 너무 예뻐가지고 속지 못하겠어. 뭔가 사진을 좀 찍어놔야겠어. 자기가 자주 해주진 않잖아. 그러니까 이번 여름에는 해주겠지. As always, let's mix it. 막 섞어야 되는데 아직도 마음의 준비가 안 됐어. 섞을게. 잘 섞어가지고. 오, 들기름 향 진짜 좋다. Cheers! 와! 예술이네. 맛있어. 와, 이거 되게 진짜 고급진 맛이다. It's got the saltiness from the soy sauce and the rich nuttiness from the Perilla oil and some freshness from the green onions. Oh my god, it's so good. 일단 저 들기름 향이 엄청 진하면서 향긋하게 전반적으로 샥 면을 딱 감싸주고 거기에다가 중간중간에 이런 김에서 혹은 간장에서 오는 뭔가 풍미 깊은 맛이 입맛을 샥샥 잘 끌어준다. 그리고 이 면도 평상시 쫄깃쫄깃한 면을 자주 먹었었는데 우리가 약간은 입에서 톡톡 끊어지는 그런 느낌이 약간 파스타 먹는 느낌이 나. 맛있다. 그런 의미에서 파스타로 해도 충분히 괜찮겠어. 중간중간에 있는 파랑 새싹이랑 이런 거는 정말 좋은 것 같아. 약간 이렇게 먹을 때마다 입에서 톡톡톡톡 터져지는 그 느낌들이 약간 상큼한 맛을 추가해주면서 리치할 수 있는 그 부분을 상큼한 맛으로 다시 한번 샥 이렇게 보완해준다? 그런 느낌이 나. 맛있다. 나는 사실 이게 김을 생으로 싹 갈아가지고 넣는 거다 보니까 김 싫어하는 사람들한테 혹시 좀 호불호가 나뉘지 않을까? 약간 걱정을 했거든? 근데 막 그런 비린내 나고 막 그런 느낌이 아니야. 그냥 우마미의 느낌이지 막 이렇게 씨푸드 싫어하는 사람들이 싫어하는 그 바다 냄새 이런 거 아니야. So you don't have to worry about it. Even if you're not a big fan of seafood or something. It's not fishy or anything. It's just like MSG from nature. 아, 근데 조금 이렇게 활짝 웃기가 살짝 걱정된다. 혹시라도 이 조그만 녀석들이 살짝 묻어있을까봐, 이 사이사이에 묻어있을까봐 오늘은 이런 거 얘기하는 걸로. So, guys, be careful if you are eating with somebody special. This dish is just wonderful as it is. But if you are looking for some other dishes to pair with, I would suggest serving it with some Korean pancakes or mandu, Korean dumplings. Because I always eat them together like combo. You're welcome. I'll put the link, or Aaron will put the link in the description. Hope you guys try. Enjoy!
I'm pretty sure you already have the best jjajangmyeon recipe. You don't have to thank me. You're welcome. But if you haven't tried this red jjajangmyeon, you're making the biggest mistake in your life.
Today we're making jjajangmyeon, but it's not gonna be black. We're gonna be making it red. Now some of you might ask, Aaron, I've never heard of it. Does it really exist? Well, the name of this dish is Sacheon Jjajang, Sichuan style jjajangmyeon. But I don't think you can see this in Sichuan province because it's a Korean Chinese dish that only exists in Korea. The taste? If you love mapo tofu and jjajangmyeon, trust me, this will definitely be your type of thing. Alright, enough talking. Let's get started. For this, you will need some pork, onion, cabbage, green onions, garlic, ginger, cucumber, and noodles. For the noodles, I recommend using this kind of nice and thick Asian style with noodles because the taste will be different from the original jjajangmyeon, but the ingredients, texture, and cooking steps, they are pretty much the same. What? There's no way to get this? Then you can substitute with Japanese udon noodles or Korean knife cut noodles. Don't worry about it. Those two bad boys will give you a good result. Alright, let's start prepping our ingredients. Cut 300 grams of pork belly into thin strips. Like I said earlier, this dish is very similar to Korean black bean noodles. So just like making jjajangmyeon, I do recommend using some fatty parts. When all the veggies and sauce are cooked in this beautiful pork fat, trust me, it's gonna be amazing. What? You prefer to use seafood? Don't worry about it. You can use all kinds of seafood like shrimp, squid, or even octopus. But like I said earlier, the fat from the pork really elevates this dish to the next level. So if you're not gonna use the pork, I recommend using some lard here. Next, get yourself one large onion and just cut it into cubes. If you're using some ground pork from your fridge, then I recommend finely dicing the onion. They'll blend in nicely with the ground pork and you'll feel like you're eating some delicious Chinese style ragu sauce. Once that's done, take 2 or 3 cabbage leaves and cut them into nice bite-sized pieces. I'm adding this cabbage just because I want some different textures in the sauce, but if you don't have it right now, then you can just go with the onion. No problem at all. This time, I'll love green onion. Grab 3 or 4 green onions and just thinly slice them. Today, we're just gonna cook them in some oil, not gonna use for our garnish. So you don't have to separate the whites and greens, so leave them alone. Let them love each other. And then smash 2 cloves of garlic and finely chop it. Once that's done, grate a small knob of ginger, about 1 teaspoon. Here, some of you might want me to say it's optional, but my answer is no. This is necessary because the combination of pork and ginger is just truly amazing. You may not want to miss that, so if it's not like 2 a.m. in the morning, make sure to use some. You won't regret it. Lastly, let's drill in some cucumber for our garnish. If you're not a big fan of cucumbers, you could also garnish with green peas, but in my humble opinion, they can be better than this refreshing cucumber. Now let's move on to the sauce. In a small container, add 1 tablespoon of Korean chili pepper flakes, 1.5 tablespoons of Chinese chili bean paste, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of mirin, and give it a good mix. Normally, when you order this dish at restaurants, they ask you how spicy you want it, which means it's totally okay to adjust the level of spiciness. So if you want to make it less spicy, you can reduce the Korean chili pepper flakes and Chinese chili bean paste. I told you already, but because your stomach is so sensitive, so if you feel something burst down there in the middle of dating, I'm not responsible. Alright, the prep is almost done. Let's make some cornstarch slurry with 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch and 4 tablespoons of water. Finally, it's cooking time. In a large wok, add 2 tablespoons of chili oil and place it over high heat. Like I said earlier, if you want to make it less spicy here, instead of chili oil, you can just use neutral oil or lard. Or, if you really enjoy the mala flavor, you can mix the chili oil with the Sichuan peppercorn flavored oil. It's totally up to you, but I have a date tonight, so I'm just gonna go with chili oil. Once it gets nice and hot, add the pork belly and cook for about 1 to 2 minutes or until no longer pink. If you've got enough fat from the pork, throw in your green onions, garlic, and ginger and infuse all the good flavors for about 1 to 2 minutes. Once the pork starts to get golden brown, add in your onion, cabbage, and stir fry them for about 2 minutes. When the veggies become translucent, pour in our sauce and toast it together for another 1 to 2 minutes. That's it! It's unbelievably simple, right? Now all you need to do is just add the cornstarch slurry that we prepared earlier and give it a final mix. There's nothing complicated, right? The next step is totally optional, but if you want to add some mala flavor to the sauce, you can add some Sichuan peppercorn flavored oil here. About 1 teaspoon will be enough. Alright, the sauce is done. Let's set it aside and prepare our noodles. Fill your pot with some water and bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, add your noodles and cook according to the package instructions. When the noodles are cooked, you can just serve them with some sauce. And that's it. But serving this dish without a crispy fried egg, that's kind of a crime. So let's go ahead and quickly make a fried egg. Get yourself another pan, add a generous amount of oil, and heat it over medium-high heat. Once it gets nice and hot, not necessarily super hot, crack in 1 or 2 eggs and tilt the pan so that eggs can kind of fry in it. That's it! Couldn't be any easier, right? Alright, the egg is done. It's time to assemble. Place some noodles in a serving bowl, but make sure they are well drained. Otherwise, extra water stuck to the noodles can dilute our sauce. And then add a generous amount of sauce over the noodles. For information, this sauce also goes well with rice. So if you run out of noodles, serve it with some rice. That's gonna be fantastic too. Last but not least, let's put some fried egg and cucumbers for our garnish. How does it look? Looks absolutely delicious, right? You wanna know how it tastes? Alright, let's call our taste tester.
Claire?
비주얼 미쳤네. 너무 이쁘다. This is a quite popular Korean Chinese dish, but believe it or not, this is my first time to try this dish. This is what happens when you just order the same dish over and over again. Because I always order just normal jjajangmyeon. Don't do it like me. Anyways, I'm super excited. Let's give it a try. 오, 너무 예쁘다. To fully enjoy this dish, you gotta mix it thoroughly, like this. 와, 너무 맛있어 보이잖아. 확실히 그 원래 먹던 짜장면이랑 향은 조금 다르네. 그 뭔가 시추안 페퍼콘의 향이 느껴지는구만. 간다. 맛있다. 만약 짜장면이랑 마파두부가 애기가 있다면 딱 그 애기 생김새가 요건 것 같아. 맛이 딱 그 느낌이야. 타천짜장이라고 해서 엄청 매울까봐 사실 걱정을 조금은 했거든? 근데 그 마라의 향이 과하지 않고 되게 기분 좋은 느낌으로다가 샥 스며들어 있어. 맛있네. 오 마이 갓. 이제 짜장면이랑 짬뽕이랑 라이벌이 한 놈 더 생겼어. It's gonna be so difficult to choose. 왜 좋아하는지는 알겠다. 사람들이 왜 요거를 또 좋아하는지 알겠네. 소시하면서 중간중간에 야채들도 양파랑 양배추랑 이런 애들이 너무 숨이 확 죽은 것도 아니고 그렇다고 너무 센 것도 아니고 완벽하게 딱 내가 좋아하는 정도로 조리가 된 것 같아서 마음에 드네. This is not necessary, but this 단무지 will bring this kind of Korean Chinese dishes to the next level. So if possible, try to serve it with this. 이 맛을 촥촥 끌어줘. Oh my god, isn't it so beautiful? And it's covered with the sauce on the bottom. 요즘에 내가 좋아하는 꽂힌 정도로 딱 조리가 잘 됐네. 맛있잖아. 엄청 맵다고 할 순 없지만 그래도 여전히 매운 사람들한테 이게 아마 구세주가 될 것 같아. Amazing.